Welcome everyone. Nice to see Colette and Eric and Sarah and Sherry and Sue and Tina, our guest speaker. This is our online chat cafe for August. Our guest tonight is Tina Dietz. She's an MS NCC. Not sure what that is. Is the is the founder of the Start Something movement, which is out to fulfill the mission of igniting 10,000 thriving businesses. Tina is an internationally acclaimed business coach, and I say international because you're in Florida right now, right?
I'm in Florida, yeah, and also been living in Costa Rica, but I have clients in 6 countries.
And she used to live in Buffalo and come up to Toronto quite frequently. And you were just here last month.
That was fun.
That was fun. I got to send you the pictures. So she is an internationally acclaimed business coach, best-selling author, speaker, host of the Start Something show, and a fourth-generation entrepreneur and a therapist, well familiar with the challenges of raising a family, juggling multiple priorities while growing a business. Tina has been featured on ABC, in national magazines such as Massage and Bodywork, and around the radio dial. Tina and her family live internationally, and they're currently based, well, in Florida, Costa Rica, and New York. Get yourself over to the startsomethingshow.com to join the movement and become a super starter. And there's Tina.
Ta-da!
That's a nice picture.
Thank you.
And I got something better. That's Tina and I. That's at Mo Monday
That was last month, yeah.
last month. And I'm speaking at Mo Monday on August 31st.
Yes, I see you're speaking about your toe.
The toe. Yeah.
The toe, the talking toe.
The talking toe, which
That's awesome.
lessons from the toe. So we're going to chat about, change and how to really, handle transition. How many people this year just like can't believe what's happened to them in terms of change and transition? Say I.
I.
Like
Aye.
everybody, right? And so Tina, this is like par for the course, right? You've had change. You started something new. You started the Start Something movement. What prompted that?
Oh, well, yeah, the Start Something movement started, sounds a little redundant. The Start Something movement came out of this mission of 10,000 thriving businesses, which I've had for a number of years. I was a bunch of years ago, I was taking some advanced leadership training, and I had a series. I guess people would call me a serial entrepreneur. It's like being a serial killer, except you leave much better things in your wake. And I kept getting bored, and I would have these businesses kind of break through and start to grow, and I had a hard time sustaining the momentum because I have one of the worst cases of shiny ball syndrome ever. And so I'm really, really good at helping other people with theirs. And so I had been in private practice and operating in this mission of 10,000 thriving businesses that I had been awakened to in this leadership training, because I had a mentor who said to me that I had to create something so big that I couldn't possibly do it all myself, and I might not be able to finish it in my lifetime. And if I did that, then I would never be bored again. And he was right. I have not been bored since. And so the Start Something movement came out of the deepening of that mission and the expansion of that mission to create a bigger container so that I could include my colleagues like you, David, and all this network that I've grown internationally over the years to help contribute to this mission, to create a community hub for mostly solo entrepreneurs. Small business tends to include a lot of small corporations and businesses up to 150 people. So it's too broad of a word. So my specialty is really working with the folks who are kind of bootstrapping their way in solo businesses and service industries, some products, mostly services, and bringing people together so that we don't feel so damn alone, first of all, and to curate the resources so that nobody gets taken for a ride down a path of, snake oil, as it were.
Right.
So that's kind of how that all happened. So the Start Something movement and the Start Something show came out of that.
All right. And I just, as you were talking, I want to welcome Donna. She came into the conversation.
Hello, Donna.
Welcome. Now, when you and I were planning all this back earlier in the summer, we had a little call, I guess, back in
Hmm.
late June or early July, and I asked you, what did you want to talk about tonight? And you said transitions and change. Why? Why that topic, and what are you seeing in those that you're working with?
Well, transition and change is something that has been a major theme in my life. Now, I grew up inside of my parents' business. I started answering phones when I was 4 and going to trade shows when I was 6. And so being steeped in the life of entrepreneurial, that entrepreneurial world, that small business world, um, was really full of change. And I have, for better or for worse, been through almost constant change and transition for most of my life. So it's something that I've learned. You either have to really learn to navigate it, really get good at it, and learn to embrace it, or you end up being kind of buried by it. And especially in business and small business and people who have businesses that are close to their hearts, um, when transition and change comes up, it's something that biologically we're kind of wired to resist. And yet it's something we have to manage and learn how to manage well in order to have what I call, this oasis-based business, in order to have, life and a business that works for us that we really love. So learning how to ride that roller coaster successfully is, I think, paramount to having what we really want.
Have you ever been a bit snowed under and overwhelmed by change? And if so, what happened?
Let's see, what day is it? Yeah.
Thursday.
So I said I have the worst case of shiny ball syndrome. Well, I tend to have anywhere from 4 to 6 projects on the go at any given time. So I have even my own coaches because, one of the things I've learned about business is, we often are really good at coaching and teaching those things that we are still up leveling in ourselves
Yeah, they
as
say
well.
they say you get your life
Yeah.
from coaching.
Oh
That,
yeah. Oh yeah.
the advice and ideas you're sharing is like, oh, maybe I need this.
Exactly. And it's always harder to hold a mirror up to yourself than it is to help somebody else. So for me, coaching has always been an outlet. And by the way, the NCC has to do with my credentials as a therapist. So that's actually my background educationally and what I did um, out in the world for a number of years before I came back around to working with entrepreneurs. Was doing work with therapy and development and teenagers and leadership and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, overwhelm does happen, absolutely. And I continually, as my projects expand, as my team expands, I'm always coming up with new structures to manage whatever's going on at the time.
How do you get out of that overwhelm and out of that soup? And we've all like I don't know about others on the call, but I know I've been there. I was just there last weekend. I was right in the soup. I was in the ah man, nothing's going right lately, or nothing's happening the way I really want it. That's my little inner kid, right? Talking. So how do you dig yourself out of that soup and get back on top of the game again?
I probably have about 20 different ways to do that, depending on what variety, what brand of overwhelm is happening. Because sometimes it's frustration that something isn't moving along. Sometimes it's a limiting belief that comes up that needs to be cleared. Um, Sometimes it's hormones. Now I can't let I'm of a certain age where there's a lot of fluctuation happening there, and I just got to admit that and be responsible for it. So it's a matter of getting really clear on what is happening in the background? What's kind of the root of the overwhelm, and taking then action accordingly, because we tend to, at least my experience with my clients and working with humanity in general, is we tend to immediately go to something's wrong with me, or something's wrong with this, or something's wrong with it. And if we can kind of step back and not make it personal, that's usually the first step. It's usually, to kind of divorce ourselves from taking it so personally that something's not working or that there's many things going on. And also as entrepreneurs to remember that we're the ones making it up. We're the ones choosing the path. We're the ones saying that something is necessary. So we can say that it's unnecessary at that time. We can say if we're doing it, we can say if somebody else is doing it. And I think a lot of times we just want it so much. We just want it to work out, and we wanted it to happen yesterday, that it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle of our own creation. So it's practicing that muscle of interrupting your own cycle, recognizing when it's happening, and interrupting it. And there's a gazillion techniques for doing that. And I've been known to use everything from singing to making lists, to going back to my plan and tweaking it, to reaching out to a colleague. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things about navigating change, is having a bag of resources that you can go to and pull out whenever you need them, because it does tend to be a very solitary practice, being an entrepreneur. And cultivating those relationships and cultivating that kind of list of resources that we can go to at a moment's notice to pull ourselves out makes things move along faster.
One of our participants, Sarah Bennett Gibson, writes, how can I not see change as a negative and really take an attitude of welcoming it?
That's a fabulous question, and it's in psychology we'd call it reframing. And there is a little bit of being willing to believe in all of this, right? Like when we watch a movie, we're willing to believe that there are Ewoks. We're willing to believe there are vampires. Otherwise, then we wouldn't enjoy the movie. We wouldn't do the principle. We suspend our disbelief. It's really almost the same process when a change comes up that is something that, let's say, we wouldn't have chosen for ourselves. Let's put it that way. And that might be a reframe right there to say, instead of saying that you are at the victim of the circumstance, or that you are at the effect of it, to take a look at it and assess it. Again, this is kind of divorcing yourself from the personal aspects of it and getting more objective about it. And that does take practice, and oftentimes it takes a partner to do that, where you can sit back objectively and say, okay, where's the blessing in the mess? Where is that silver lining? And what am I going to pull out of this for myself? Because that's a choice, and some things do just suck. And I actually have a whole process that I teach people called ranting. I teach a mini workshop on it called Ranting Your Way to Success, or if it's an all-female group, I call it Bitching Your Way to Success. And I actually have a little ebook about it. If you go to solveanyproblemnow.com, there's an ebook called Solve Any Problem in 10 Minutes, which is a super sexy title, but it has a whole assessment tool and a practice you can go through to move through problem solving very, very quickly and reliably. I use it with all my clients. And it includes leaving yourself room to complain, because being all Pollyanna about it doesn't work either. We need to give ourselves some room. We need to give ourselves some room to get through the upset.
Yeah, and I think a little upset and a little angst and a little rant and a little
Absolutely.
pity party for one, table for one, pity party for one.
I'm a Sicilian former drama major. I need room for drama.
Yeah, I think it's healthy. I think it's all part of the process. What I like, I do. I rant. I just ranted the other day in the car because a check didn't come that I'm counting on from a
Yeah.
client. Hey, they said they mailed it last week. What the hell? It's Wednesday. You know, and I had a little conversation with the man above, or a nature trail walk, and I stopped by a tree and gave just got all my angst out.
Yeah.
Just like, and then I hugged the tree after. Believe it or not.
Well, that's what you do. You come to a place of, completion, because some rants are, for better or for worse, a little bit like gas. You have it and it's over with, and then you move through it.
Yeah.
And some other
Nothing
rants are
like
a
a
little
big
bit deep.
fart sometimes.
There you go. And it's a relief. And then you just deal with the consequence for a few seconds. It doesn't last that long, and then you're fine.
All right.
And some rants are deeper seated and require that's like, okay, well, I've been having the same complaint for a long time. What's that all about? And that's usually where we're getting something out of it, where we're kind of wallowing in it a little bit, or being righteous about it. We don't want to let that go. And we can have that, but there's a cost. So you kind of just get really clear on what you're committed to.
Right. What I find happens, Tina, and this is when I'm going through the soup, and change is happening, or things aren't happening the way I'd like to. The old negative stories come up. Oh, see, it's always been that way. Nothing good
Mm-hmm.
ever happens to me, or whatever it is, your negative sort of voice. How do we quiet those limiting beliefs and those thoughts and reframe it to be more beneficial to us?
Well, there's a couple of techniques. It, Trying to resist the thoughts when they come up is probably the worst thing that you can do, because we're kind of wired to push back. And it's like the whole, don't think about pink elephants, right?
Right.
And there it is.
Yeah.
So it's more, how seriously do you want to take your own thoughts? We are such biological machines. And something that brings me enormous amounts of comfort is knowing that biologically my brain is not geared towards me doing risky or even perceived risky things. And that has a lot to do with why there is the mental freak out. Okay, so, human beings that, we've been around for thousands of years. We've had to deal with a lot of crap in that time. Our brains have, grown with us over the generations to kind of be a certain way. And so we're wired for survival. We're not wired for thriving. So it's a matter of kind of starting to understand your own wiring, not just the thoughts, not just the psychology, but the machinery that you're dealing with. And I find it very comforting to know that a lot of the freak out is machinery. It's not personal. It's not even, necessarily stuff from my past or beliefs or things like that. That's just the end result. Ultimately, my brain is trying to keep me safe and warm. That is what my brain is trying to do. So any perceived threats, even if it's not quote unquote real, you trigger that fight or flight response. You start to trigger different neurological processes that are designed for safety. So that's why certain things it's important to have in place when you're going through a transition, like a powerful vision, like a vision plan, like a daily workshop practice, because those things are not just a good idea from a strategy standpoint, they're also good for us from a neurological standpoint to help quiet the brain, because the brain then is working with us and not against us. And there's a whole bunch of other neuroscience in there.
All right. So visions,
Yeah.
having your compelling vision.
Mm-hmm.
I have a vision board in back of me here in my office.
Cool.
I cannot say that I've honestly manifested the house or the girlfriend yet. I'm counting on it, but it hasn't happened.
Okay.
So there's my limiting belief coming up, and the limiting belief is saying it's not going to happen. Why bother?
Yeah, screw that vision.
Yeah. So how do we create compelling visions that really, maybe do?
Yeah. You know, the vision, having a vision is again, I take it from not only from all the things we've heard from about the law of attraction, but from, again, the neurological standpoint behind this. I am such a brain nerd, okay? I'm a total brain nerd. So when I create visions with folks, and I use something called the perfect day exercise, which on the whole membership at the start, the free membership, everyone gets to do the perfect day exercise. I want everyone in the world to do the perfect day exercise. And it's done a very specific way. It's designed a very specific way because again, trying to use the brain's natural, innate working to help us on a day-to-day basis be more functional, be happier, be more productive, and be pulling that future toward us. So when you're creating a vision, it needs to be as though you are creating a memory. So the same, you can actually create intentionally a memory in the future, and that's what the perfect day exercise does. It's a very deep, visceral visualization exercise that is intentionally looking to activate the neurons in your brain that create memory. And when you create a memory that exists in the future, and therefore it has no anchor, the brain starts to look for evidence that it's true, because things that are true mean that you're sane. If you're sane, that means that you're safe. So your brain wants to keep you safe. So your brain starts to look for evidence that this future memory that you've created is true. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's called attunement. And this is the same phenomenon that happens when you see a red BMW for the first time, or a Lotus, a really exotic car, something unusual. And then all of a sudden you see 5 of them in a week. It's the same process. It's called attunement. So we're attuning our brains when we use the vision. But the thing about that is that it needs to be deeply visceral. It needs to have the senses involved, the touch, taste, smell, feel. And it needs to be repeated. It needs to be continually embedded in our minds, which is why we hear people talk about law of attraction or anything. They talk about reading your goals every day or multiple times a day. It's not just to make yourself believe them. You're actually trying to get your brain to look for those things that are going to help you. Now, that's not the only thing we need to be doing. We got to connect all the dots in between, but that is the basis, and that's some of the neuroscience, why some of this repetition is important, why we do the vision boards, why we do things like the perfect day exercise. And the more you do that and take action accordingly, that's really the other part, is taking action accordingly, then your chances are better of fulfilling that vision.
Now, you in your notes to me today, you said the perfect once someone has their perfect day, their vision, um, and their vision, then what's next? So first, I want to talk about this perfect day concept you've created.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Because I'm wondering if it's bordering on something I teach, which is called the Swift method, where
I have no idea.
it's also a perfect day where you're tapped into your social goals, your work, your inner game is being taken care of. That's your meditation, your prayer, your reading, your education. Then the F is the financial. T is taking care of, like exercise, time with the family, important issues like that. Is that kind of what your perfect day is kind of about, or what
Well,
is
the perfect day exercise is actually much. The exercise itself is much simpler than that. It's a visualization exercise. It's a recording. I do a lot of voiceover work. I'm also one of my passions is quite honestly the sound of my own voice, as some people know. And
Oh
I
yeah,
love
that's
being in
great.
front of, yeah, I love being in front of a microphone. So I actually do have a voice acting. I freelance voice act, and it's my paid hobby. It's something I love very much, and I bring that into my business. And I also grew up with parents who are yoga teachers. So worlds collide, and then in my own training, so I developed this exercise that's neurologically tuned to visualization to have you walk through a perfect day of your own creation 5 years into the future.
Oh, cool.
And then there's some cues, and then there's an actual exercise about getting it down on paper. I actually provide some writing prompts because sometimes it's hard to look at a blank page. And then to make it real in the world, the bonus round with the perfect day exercise is to share it with at least 30 people. That's the bonus round. That's what really starts to create momentum. And it's really funny. I have had the most amazing things happen out of people sharing their perfect day. I've never to this date, not that it couldn't happen, but I've never to this date had anyone have a negative experience sharing their perfect day. I love to keep that track record going. But I have had people get married.
What? Lost you. There you are. Are you back? Tina, you there?
I can hear you, Dave, but I don't think anybody
No, I don't.
else can hear us.
No, I don't think.
David, I hear you.
I know.
I hear you.
I'm okay. It's just we lost Tina. Well, time for questions maybe until she kind of comes back. She might have to recall in. So does anybody have any questions so far? Or any examples you want to share with regards to how you're dealing with managing change and what works for you? Anybody want to chime in? And Larissa, welcome to the call. Anyone?
Well, David, Colette, I just think that for me, the way I'm managing my changes, I am taking, I think, what I have gone through as a negative, and I'm trying to turn it into a positive. I'm thinking that, you know what, probably it's now the best time for me to do things that I wanted to do that I kept putting on the back burner. So, like as you walk and you talk to yourself, I kind of do the same thing, or I kind of sit with a glass of wine and with a pen and a paper and try to figure out what's my next move. So I kind of make a little sketch of what's going on, throughout my brainwave, and put that down on paper and try to move forward as a positive thing, and try not to look back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to. I like to kind of really look forward and create. Really create things.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else have
Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Tina.
Oh, okay. We lost you there for a bit.
No, I was been on the whole time. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So where were we there, Tina? So we were opening it up to what works for some people, what methodologies work. Do you think I want to go back to this perfect day thing we were talking about?
Where did I lose you? Because I was
around
going
the
on
perfect
quite some
day,
time.
and sharing it with 30 people.
Yeah, so
But
I
what
didn't
comes out of
lose
that
much
when you share your perfect day with 30 people? What comes out of that?
Well, usually what happens is, it starts to become more real in the world. You're gathering allies, you're gathering evidence, you're letting people know what you really want so they can contribute back to you. And I don't know, did you hear me share some of the things that have happened out of people sharing their perfect day?
No.
Okay, so it's one of my favorite things. I've had so many cool things happen. I've had people get married. Like one person in particular shared she had been dating someone for 10 years. And shared her perfect day, and he had like this revelation. He had never wanted to get married again, and now they've been married now happily for a number of years now. I had somebody, people quit smoking. I've had people reunited after years. Of people get new jobs. I have people get clients, offers to be on the radio, like all kinds of really cool stuff. I had a client in Sweden end up getting offered a position leading leadership programs for the King of Sweden. I mean, it's just so cool.
So you're creating a vision 5 years out, and then when you share it, what you're creating is coming to be now, right?
Well, and that's really part of it. It's really one of the difficult things about being a leader is that vulnerability of sharing what we really, really want, not just what we do, not just what we're good at, not just what our business is, but what we really want. And there's nothing that connects human beings like stories. And the perfect day, when you write out that perfect day, it's a story. It's really the story of that day. And it evokes emotion in other people. I mean, who doesn't really want to live a perfect day? So it's funny after all these years too. I mean, perfect days tend to involve common things, and I'm not even going to say what they are because I want everyone to have their own experience with it. But there's this human thread that runs through this experience of wanting freedom, of wanting peace, of wanting joy. And when you create that perfect day and you create it on that visceral level, you're creating it so that you're bringing up the emotional state of that perfect day. Well, the good news is then as you embed that by repetition, you keep bringing up that emotional state. And the more you can stay in the emotional state of that perfect day, even pieces of it, well, then you start noticing it when it comes up or parts of it come up in other areas of your life throughout the day. And you're like, oh, I'm having a perfect moment. Or, oh, I just had a perfect thought. It's just like it starts to snowball. And having other people around that are familiar with your perfect day and maybe doing theirs as well, now you're starting to create the energy of a tribe. And that whole power of like-minded people, not just like-minded like, oh yeah, we all want to be in the same direction, but like-minded like, oh, I see you, and I'm like you too. And now in many cases the space between us is diminished because now we can really feel for each other. That compassion, that empathy is present. And one of the most important things, as I mentioned before, is the sense that we're not alone.
Well, the other thing too that's coming up for me is when you really start to focus and think about your perfect day and you start to share it with 30 people, guess what you're keeping away? You're keeping those limiting beliefs at bay.
Yeah, you're actually developing new neural pathways. And that's really the thing about our old crap. Our old crap is our old crap. It's always going to be there. There's neurological pathways that have been embedded and refined and deepened over many, many years. You don't get rid of those. What you do is build new ones. And that's why it doesn't take 30 days to build a new habit. It takes 6 months to a year because it's not just the outward behavior that we're changing. We're quite literally building a new network internally inside of our bodies that has to all connect up, and that construction takes some time.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we plan for change or do we just, embrace change or do we just allow for change?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. It depends on, different people have different tolerance levels, really based on our personality. Our personalities are anywhere 50-60% genetic. We do come in kind of wired a certain way. I didn't believe that until I had kids. I know I had been taught it in research and empirical studies and all of that. Did not believe it until I had children, and I went, oh, now I get it. Now I understand. So, not everyone is an extrovert. Not everybody wants to be around people to recharge. Not everybody is. I mean, I hate to say that we're all special snowflakes, but we are in one sense or another. So we have to find ways that work for us. And that is kind of the beauty of the age that we're living in right now, that while there's no magic bullets, there are solutions and there are tools. And if we allow ourselves the freedom to experiment, we can experiment on ourselves. We've been doing it anyway, so we might as well do it intentionally.
Yeah, and
Then we're never lost.
and we're also living in a time where there's so much help available, there's
Yes.
coaches, there's therapists, there's healers, there's, so much available. Right. Whereas, when our parents were kind of our age, raising us, there wasn't stuff available. There weren't programs available for them.
No, I mean, my mom started going to therapy when I was 9 or 10 years old, and it was like revolutionary.
Yeah.
The people didn't do. She was doing biofeedback. of all
Wow.
things. Yeah,
Cool
super
mom.
cutting edge for that
Well,
time.
yoga
Yeah.
teachers, what do you expect?
Well, she didn't become a yoga teacher until after that. My parents sold wood-burning stoves and fireplaces when I was growing up, and then
Oh,
then they got into yoga. Go figure, right?
yeah.
Talk about change.
So, talking about change, how powerful it is to see it first. The power of
What do you
seeing
mean?
the change.
The
The
power of
power of,
seeing?
of, of seeing change, and seeing it first, like in your mind's eye. The power of visualizing your change.
Oh, yeah,
Like, and having a
absolutely.
daily practice of visualization and meditation.
Yeah, visualization and meditation I think is very important. I advocate heavily what I call a daily workshop. And it can, and again, your daily workshop, your practice can be whatever calls to you. And it may very well change over time. I usually recommend that everyone's daily practice involves, especially if you're doing it first thing in the morning, drinking warm or hot water to flush your system. It actually also activates some neurological processes as well, and it's symbolic. Let's face it. Some kind of movement to get the blood going, breathing of some variety, and
Breathing's
choosing.
good, apparently.
Yeah, breathing is very good. I use a lot of breathing
Yeah.
techniques, and also some kind of choosing. So when I'm working with clients and we go from their perfect day to their 5-year vision plan to their 2-month targets and tasks, so we're focusing in so they have an easy time choosing those tasks for the day or tasks for the week they're doing because they know that everything they have down in front of them is connected from the moment they are there all the way through that 5 years into that perfect day. Everything's connected like a string of pearls. So it allows the brain to settle. So you can say, oh yeah, this is how it's all connected.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I know I've done visualization in the past, and boy, that was the easiest way to manifest something. It
It's
came true.
powerful stuff. It
It really
really
is.
is.
Yeah.
It really
Well, they've
is.
done a study. Dr. Blizzato did a study with with basketball players, and he took 3 groups. The first group didn't practice or visualize throwing free throws, and their improvement rate was nothing. Like, they didn't really improve. Then he took another group who practiced throwing free throws, and they had a 23% improvement rate. And then the third group didn't practice, but they visualized throwing free throws, and they had a 21% improvement rate. Just like a percent difference from the group that practiced.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the power to me of visualization. You know,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah, it definitely it helps with, performance
yeah.
any day of the week. And, with business, especially small business, there's so many moving parts and different hats to wear that, you know, especially with managing change, we have to keep ourselves grounded.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And do that daily practice. I know that
Yeah, exactly.
Are you okay to maybe do a little bit of coaching with someone who'd
Yeah,
like to get some?
absolutely.
Would like to kind of get a little bit of
Even if
coaching.
it's not on this particular topic, if someone's got, anything from networking to social media to strategy to product development, go for it.
All right. So who'd like a little coaching? Sarah, you've got your hand up here with a question. Who would like a little bit of coaching on managing change? Sherry, you got your hand up. Can I unmute you? No. Sherry, if you want coaching, unmute yourself and chime on in. Anybody want a little coaching on an area in their life?
I think that
Nope, who's that?
Is that Sherry?
I think for me it's the whole
Hello.
yeah, Sherry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I think for me the whole thing when you talk about visioning, like you mentioned the vision board and visualizing kind of the thing, I get stuck there. Like I don't know if it's big. I think it comes from just raising my daughter in a lifestyle where we didn't have what we much, so you kind of put the wants and everything on the back burner, or just I grew up that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't. I went even to a vision board party where it was like you had 5 areas of your life and you kind of put the vision there. But I can't put. I can't. It's like what do you want for yourself? And I hear crickets chirping in my head kind of scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
That does happen. And honestly, personally, I'm not against vision boards, but I personally don't get a lot of juice out of them. I prefer to do the visualization exercises and that because that's how I'm wired. But you know, it all has to do with what you connect with. So sometimes you almost have to kind of back into it because, and a lot of times when you go to personal development classes, or especially the ones that are in big rooms with big names, it's all that, $1 million this and yacht that and oh this and honestly, most people want to live a good life. We want to be able to do cool stuff. We want to be able to take care of our kids. We want to feel good, right? So you don't have to go all kinds of big. So when you're thinking about what you want, sometimes you either start with what has felt good in the past, what are some places you'd like to go or like to do, even if it's kind of like locally, or, and just start playing with some questions like, if I were still in the place that I'm living, but it was exactly how I wanted it, or I could add one thing to it, what would it be? And you start to, kind of loosen up your imagination a little bit rather than having to go for some big grandiose vision of it. I mean, a lot of folks I work with, their perfect day is a work day. They're just doing what they really want to do and having a great time and having time for their family and getting to the gym and having great sex or, whatever the case at night or whatever the case may be.
Not in that order.
Hey, to each his own.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely lighten, there's no one right way to do it. It's really about evoking feeling good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that's kind of generally where I am because I know as soon as people, like I had one business coach, for example, who was all about the six-figure income and in order for, he wanted me to go into debt to work with her and all this kind of thing, and it's like, I'm not doing that. And when it comes to money talk, it's a turnoff for me. I have no interest in the whole money thing.
Yeah, money is not a motivator for a lot of folks. It's actually not my prime motivator at all. I had to really come to grips with that for myself. Because and honestly, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends, a lot of my clients, it's not our primary motivator. We're more interested in a quality of life, a richness of life, an experience. Have you ever heard the song Royals?
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, well, it's a pop song, and one of the lines is like, "We'll never be royals. That kind of luck's just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz." And I love the song, and I love that line.
Yeah, the lyrics, I recognize those.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, I want that. I crave a different kind of buzz,
Yeah.
So when we up and moved our family to Costa Rica and all of that, we're not living in a yacht. We're living in a local village. We're having a good time. We're living light. And it's because we want the experience and we want the sense of freedom. And, to me, the whole, build a six-figure income in 6 months, I throw up a little in my mouth. So
I do too with that. And
yeah.
I always wonder, like, okay, those people who are taking those coaching programs, and there's a lot of them out there, how many of them are really making six figures? And my other fear is, do they have the marketing and sales chops to make it happen?
Well, see, and I just got a thing today about a coaching of 60, what was it? It was 60-60, so it was 60 days to 60K, and I'm like, yeah, that's even possible. Maybe for some people, but...
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, now, my personal statistics, people who, my VIP clients who work, they work. It takes action, They do tend to double their income and double their free time within a year. That's the track record. That's what I'm very proud of, and that's what if that's what people want, that's what we aim for. People usually want more money and more time.
Well, and see, for me, that's kind of where I'm at. I need to, I guess double my income. My income right now is barely a survivable income.
Yeah.
But it's not that I want to make $1 million. I want to get to the point where you have the options and freedom available. So, for example, if I want to go to a week-long conference in San Diego in 2016, I have the means to do it.
Exactly.
But at the same time, how do you identify with what's blocking you as far as money goes? Because I've heard a lot about money blocks lately, so it sounds like it's an area that's kind of talking to me, but I don't understand how to identify it.
Yeah, money's a funny thing because we all have so much crap around it one way or another. And it really it starts again with kind of awareness and it, seeing if we can, practicing being that space of seeing what comes up for us without going into a shame spiral, of some kind about it, like, oh, okay. So a couple of exercises that, if money issues coming up, are just, what are your current practice? I'm not asking you this right now, but just consider, what are your practices around money? How often do you pay attention to it? How do you behave around it? What do you expect of it? And there are some things like, complete the sentence as many ways as you can. I don't have enough money to ... And you just kind of start to get a sense of what's happening in the background. And as soon as you start to pull out what's happening in the background, more tends to come out on its own naturally. So then you just start to be able to see, oh, I have a relationship with money like I have relationships with men. And neither of those is really working for me right now, or whatever the case may be. I'm treating my business like it owes me something, or I'm just popping out some that have come up in the past for folks that they've noticed, or I'm ashamed to make money, or
or not.
I've never had a lot, so I don't know what it would be like to have a lot.
Right, or
Don't know.
it's never happened in the past. Why would it
Yeah.
happen now?
So it's not, to me, it's never made sense, and it doesn't make sense psychologically or neurologically, I'll go back to that, to expect that somebody can go from getting by to, in 2 years, I'm going to own a yacht. It's more a matter of steps. It's up-leveling. And actually, I'm not a big fan of Napoleon Hill, but there was no, it wasn't Napoleon, it was the book Think and Grow Rich, which I like much
That
better,
is
by Wallace
Napoleon.
Wattles. That's a much better book than that was Napoleon Hill. What was my
That
thinking
was
of?
Napoleon.
That was Napoleon Hill. The
Wallace
other guy,
Wattles' book. I know what you're talking about.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'll have to think of it later. But anyway, he describes a much more sustainable mindset type approach where, it's the person who they live in a single room. He was writing in 1910. So, they live in a single room, and he visualizes that what he really wants next is a stove. So he goes out and, he's saving for that stove, and then he gets that there, and then he imagines the next thing and starts to work towards that. And it's more this stepwise, incremental snowball type of approach.
What was his name?
Wallace Wattles. It's a public domain book.
He was a protege of.
WADDLES?
I have too many books in my head.
He was a protege of Napoleon Hill. So if you
Actually, it's the other way around. I think Napoleon wrote after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I could be wrong.
Can we move forward a little bit? Donna had a question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks, Sherry. Donna, what would you like to ask? Donna, you there? Okay, and Donna. Okay, she's written it down.
Great.
Donna, you there? You wanted some coaching on something? Nope. I'm good. Okay. All right. She's okay. Let's move forward.
Don't tease, Donna. Don't tease me like that.
I know. And then Sarah had a question, but she left the building.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has, further questions or wants to schedule a time to chat, we could definitely do that.
We're going to do shameless self-promotion time. So a little bit.
Yeah, shameless self-promotion.
So what are some strategies, real quick, maybe 3 strategies to help us get from here to there?
Here to there. You mean in terms of navigating the change?
Yeah.
Okay. So couple of strategies. One would be, of course, I would love for everyone to do the perfect day exercise, because putting yourself past the nose to the grindstone, can't see the forest for the trees moment, and into a larger vision, even if it's not about you, if it's about impacting the world, it's about leaving a legacy, it's like, how do you want to leave the world a better place, can take you out of the present moment and help you see the bigger picture, so that what you're dealing with right now doesn't seem quite so insurmountable. That's one thing to consider, is that type of thinking. Another thing to do would be to get a buddy. Obviously I'm a coach. I advocate for coaching. I have coaches myself. But get a coach, get a buddy, get inside of a mastermind, join something where you can do some accountability. That's an actual accountability group, not a whining group. And and start to allow yourself to be contributed to. Ask for help and then take the help. Take it as given, and try it. And definitely develop a daily practice that minimally has you doing some moving, some breathing, and some choosing of what you're going to be doing that day, whether you do it in the morning or at night or both, 10 or 15 minutes even, to just clear your mind. And also remember to acknowledge what you have gotten done, what you have accomplished, even if it's a matter of getting through the day, getting everybody fed, and
Mm-hmm.
like nothing, having fallen down. Some days are like that, but we've got to acknowledge that we're keeping a lot of things afloat. We're working more now than medieval serfs did.
Oh my
There've been
God.
some, yeah, then there've been a lot of studies done on this. We work more hours, especially in North America, than medieval serfs did, because they had to stop when the sun went down. We don't.
Yeah, we have electricity.
So
How do
go
we?
easy.
A couple real quick questions, because we're almost out of time. How do we bust through the fear to take that leap of faith?
How do you master the fear? Okay, well, fear is a set of physical sensations mixed with some thoughts about that. So this again comes back to less of a business practice and more of an internal practice. And so dealing with fear, that's a whole other topic. I do a day-long workshop on it. But again, this is one of the reasons why I advocate that for breathing practices. It's a couple of really simple techniques when you're feeling fear come on. One is, and I can't get into all the whys of this, so you're going to have to take a little bit on faith. One is to smile like you're grinning like an idiot. Take a really big goofy smile on your face and breathe while smiling. Okay? You're interrupting some neurological cycles. Another one is to put your hand over your heart and take deep breaths. That actually stimulates the release of oxytocin, the love hormone, and will help your body cope with senses of fear. A third one would be to do an intentional sigh. And what I mean by that is when you start high and you go low, you actually release a whole other bunch of stuff in the body. So I'll just do it. You go, ah. Try it on your own. Do it a couple of times.
I do that on my walks in the morning.
Yeah, it's actually really powerful. These are like tuning an instrument. If you think of your body and your mind as an instrument, we have to keep it tuned. And see, these are some little tiny tools that you can just use to keep it tuned. Because fear is an automatic response, and to counteract it, we actually just have to develop muscle around it, mental, emotional, psychological muscle, neurological muscle, to deal with that. And again, people. Having people around who you can go to and go, I'm freaking out, and they say, I got it.
Yeah, so ask
what
for
you're freaking out about.
I have an accountability buddy, and we talk twice a month.
Yep, I do too. I have several actually for different projects.
Yeah.
And I
have
those are a couple about fear.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and breathe. The other thing I find too, Tina, is like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as
We do.
entrepreneurs, and it's like, you know, who's putting that deadline on you? You know, it's like, all right, so it's not ready by September 15th. Like, try October
Yeah.
15th, you
Yeah.
know?
A lot of times, with my clients, it's a matter of they don't know how well they're doing
Yeah, we are.
compared to the rest of the planet. So it's a lot of times it's a normalizing process, and many times it's a simplifying process. So many times, people do things, I do things, my clients do things that you don't actually need to be doing, and there's a simpler way to do it. So hard to see for yourself.
Yeah,
And then being able to lay out that simpler solution so you can get from A to B faster when easier. Well, that's what coaching is really all about, as far as I'm concerned, is shortening the learning curve and taking the internal as well as the practical and fusing it together so that, it's my job to be a resource. It's my job to be a mirror. It's my job to help you, get where you want to go. Not where I want you to go, where you want to go.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's another topic for discussion because some of us,
Yeah.
we think we know what we want, but we don't really know what we want.
Well, there's gentle suggestions as well.
Yeah. You know, I was working today real quick with entrepreneurs. I was doing coaching panels. And one of the things I find to help people get over the fear and to manage change and to accomplish a goal that they is the research to know ahead of time, to do your homework, to see
Hmm.
what the best fit is for you, what the best route is. And that's one of the stories about the toe, is that I didn't know what I was getting into. And so I went for this treatment where I enclosed in a little hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which, kind of is a glass enclosed chamber of about, 4 feet high and 7 feet long. And I'm freaking out going, holy crap, I don't want to be in here for an hour and a half. Like I didn't know what I was going into. And then when I started to research, then I found out that NFL football players and athletes go through these sessions. Oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
Right,
Oh,
right. Yeah, knowledge is power. That's one of, like I said, about the knowing the machinery of what we're dealing with as human beings and our own minds and our own bodies is, I find, incredibly powerful.
yeah.
I guess that's a lot more of what we're doing. But I noticed we're starting to go
We
over
are
time,
we're
but I
over time.
really
So,
want to
so
honor
shameless
people's time because they
self-promotion
stuck
time.
with us for this whole hour.
I
Yeah.
know, it's amazing. Thank you, everybody. But where do we reach you, and what do you got going on? And Donna wanted to have a little private call with you. Can people have a little
Absolutely, Donna.
10-minute
We can
call with
totally do
you?
that.
Are you open to that?
Right now or
Well,
another
no,
time?
after, like, if they want a little mini coaching session, you're gonna do.
Yeah, no, here's what we do. A couple of things we can
Okay.
do. So, yes, my website is thestartsomething.show.com. I have a weekly, if I do say so myself, pretty awesome show. Actually, David's going to be a guest coming up in a few weeks,
Yeah.
where I share the people whose work I love with the world, but not only just the work they do, but how they got started, how they actually navigated things like change and transition, and of course my own tips and goofiness every week. And if you go there, there is a free membership. We are building out an entire back-end membership site, and you will get the perfect day exercise. You'll get this cool class on the 5 keys to unlock your Oasis-based business. You'll even get the Super Starter Pledge, which is something you can add as part of your daily practice to remind yourself exactly of your freaking awesomeness every freaking day. So you can do that, and then we'll be having the login section and all that coming out in the next couple of months, and I got my team working on that. But besides that, if you want to just shoot me an email and set up a time to chat, like a 30-minute consultation chat, talk about your business, talk about what you're up to, you just email me, just tina@thestartsomethingshow.com. That's me. It'll come right to me, and I'll shoot you a link to my calendar, and you can pick a time that works for you. So that's the easiest thing to do.
So it's Tina at
So,
thestartsomething.com.
thestartsomething.show.com.
I'm on your website. Some of you can see it.
Yes, there we
There
are.
it is. So
Yay, there I am.
create a legacy, conquer your fear. We were just talking about and
That's
start
right.
something. So I really recommend you connect with Tina. I've had the good pleasure of working with her and meeting her and doing cool stuff with her, and she's a fabulous woman. And I just want to thank you for being here tonight, and thank everybody for being on the call.
It's my absolute, absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for sharing this time with me and for listening. And, you know, stay in touch. Whatever you guys need. 10,000 thriving businesses. I got work to do. Let's do it.
I know. And this was sponsored, by the way, by Coffee News Toronto. If you want to advertise, they're a really cool publication reaching some real high-profile people downtown. And this was the online chat cafe for those who haven't been on it. We do this every month just to help build my community and help you keep inspired, on target, and connected. There's no hard sell here. It's just sort of like it's a passion of mine to interview people, and if you want to work with me, work with me. You know, I'm always open. But this is your show tonight, Tina. And I thank you so much once again, and hope
Oh, thank you, Dave. It's always such a pleasure.
to connect with you. Okay, so thanks. So
Thank you.
we're going to stop the recording and wish everybody a beautiful